Hello everyone, welcome to the Rift. Today, we're going to be talking about all of the new legends in Spiritforged. That's right, all 12 of them have been announced and revealed as of today. Some of them are extremely strong, and some of them look like they may have potential, but we'll have to wait and see what's actually in the set. So I'm going to go ahead and rank how good I think each of these legends is going to be, based purely just on the legends themselves, the cards we already have from set 1 and our current format. We don't really have many cards from set 2, so all of this could change drastically if crazy new cards are revealed or decks that are placed lower on this list. With some of these legends, I think it's pretty straightforward that these decks have a high likelihood of being really good. Some of them have a lot of potential, and some of them are going to need quite a bit of help, I think, if they want to be good. At some points, I'm going to mention some of the signature cards that are associated with these legends. I won't really be talking about them much or rating them in this video because I'm going to make a separate video going over all those cards together, but I'll occasionally briefly mention the ones that we've already seen, and I will be factoring them into my rankings a little bit. It's not really that important to have a good signature spell. I mean, look at Master Yi, he just doesn't play his at all. It's just a nice little bonus when a deck signature spell is good. So yeah, I'll talk about a couple of them a little bit, but I'll save discussing them in depth for a later video. Alright, we've got a lot of cards to talk about today, so let's jump right into it. But first, if you're enjoying the content, then make sure that you like the video and feel free to smash that subscribe button. And if you'd like to support the channel even further, I have a link to my Patreon in the video description. Also, I have channel memberships now. They're just $1 and you get these nice badges next to your name whenever you comment or chat in live streams. Thank you to everybody who supports the channel, even just by watching videos. I really appreciate it. Alright, back to the video. Alright, starting at the top of the tier list, I've got two legends, Rek'Sai and Draven. I think these are the most straightforward legends, the easiest to understand how they're gonna be good. It's really easy to see how these cards could be good. They both share something in common, and that's drawing a ton of cards for free just by playing the game, which, yeah, just seems pretty strong. First off, we've got Rek'Sai, the Void Burrower. This is a red-yellow legend that says, when you conquer, you may exhaust me to reveal the top 2 cards of your main deck. You may play one, then recycle the rest. So basically, every time you conquer, which you're going to be doing a lot, you reveal the top 2 cards of your deck, and you get to play one. Not for free, you still have to pay its costs, energy, and power, but that is still extremely strong. This is just free card draw, and it's potentially even better because it can proc reveal effects when you reveal these cards. I think this card is pretty much on the same power level as something that says, when you conquer, draw one, which would be an extremely strong legend effect to have. That's just like 6-ish free cards over the course of the game, but it's potentially even better because you get to look at 2 cards and pick the best one, and also maybe proc reveal triggers and recycle triggers as well, because this recycles a card. You do have to play the card that you pick immediately because it's part of the resolution of this effect, so you can't save it for later on your turn, but I really don't think that is going to matter that much. This deck to me seems like it wants to be pretty aggressive and pretty unit heavy, so most of the time when you proc this effect, you're probably going to be able to play a card off of it, and especially if you're able to stack the top of your deck or put cards from your hand on top, something that Rek'Sai used to be able to do in Legends of Runeterra. I mean, to me, it just seems pretty straightforward that this card is very strong. Getting a bunch of free cards just for playing the game how you would play the game is pretty good. Also, the signature spell is nuts, so that helps a lot as well. Speaking of getting free cards just for playing the game, we also have Draven, which I've talked about previously in my last reveal video, so I won't really go into that much detail on him here, but I think he's very strong. He's a red-purple legend that says when you win a combat, draw one, which is exactly what you want to be doing in this game, especially in this color combo. Red-purple is really good at winning combats, either on the offense or on defense, either when you're attacking or when you're defending. And yeah, like I've said before, just getting a bunch of card draw for free over the course of the game is very good. Also, his signature card is pretty good, so that helps. In the next tier, I have a bunch of decks that I think are most likely going to be good, but they're not as straightforward as Rek'Sai and Draven are. I think all of these legends have a lot of potential for multiple reasons, and I think it's likely that these decks are probably going to be at least decent. First up, we've got Aurelia, who I've also talked about previously, but I'll go over her again here. She's in green-purple, and she says, when you choose a friendly unit, you may exhaust me and pay a power of any color to ready it. And when you conquer, you may pay 1 energy to ready me. The first effect triggers when you equip something with an equipment. It also triggers when you play a weapon master unit and it equips itself. I think movement in this game is quite strong. This card essentially just readies all of your weapon masters when you play them, which is kind of nuts, seeing as though this entire set is kind of themed around equipment and equipping stuff and using weapons. There's probably going to be a lot of good support for doing that. My one big concern about this deck is power costs. Equipping things costs power unless you circumvent that. This effect also costs power, and if you do it twice in a turn, it's going to cost a lot of power. So either this deck gets a ton of ways to circumvent that power, or you're going to have to play stuff like seals, or be very careful about how much power you're spending. This effect has a ton of potential, and I think it's probably going to be really good, but it could also just end up being overcosted when other decks in the format are giving you things for free that you don't have to pay for at all. Also, her signature spell is probably the best in the game, if not one of the best in the game. It's very good. Next up, we've got Azir, Emperor of the Sands. He's in green-yellow, and he says you can pay an energy and exhaust him to play a 2-might Sand Soldier unit token to your base, and you can only use this if you played an equipment this turn. Also, your Sand Soldiers have Weapon Master, so when you play them, they get to equip themselves immediately for free. Again, this deck is themed around equipment, which is a big theme in this set. I think there's most likely going to be some really good equipment and weapon masters in this set, and this effect is already really good. Just pay 1 energy to get a 2-might token onto the board is really good. Victor pays 1 energy for a 1-might token, so this is already double the value. You have the restriction of needing to play equipment, but this is the equipment set, and there's already some pretty good equipment in these colors. And I think that equipment overall is going to be at least decent, if not really strong, as long as you're not paying too much energy and too much power to get them onto the board. They are just kind of pump spells that stay with you for the rest of the game, and if you're building up more and more equipment as time goes on, you can eventually just like take a token and soup it up with a bunch of equipment to make it huge, which seems really funny. So yeah, I do see a lot of potential with this deck. I think it's probably going to be good. Next up, we've got Ornn. This guy is green and blue, and he can exhaust himself as a reaction to add a power of any color, which you can only use to either play gear or to use gear abilities, like equipping the gear or any other abilities that gear might have. So he's essentially just a seal or Kaisa for gear instead of spells, which sounds really good to me. We all know how strong Kaisa is by this point. Her effect is quite good. Green-blue is a pretty decent color combo, and again, it's another deck that wants to do stuff with equipment. Keep in mind, this is not only for equipment. He can pay power for any type of gear, and yeah, I mean, his effect is pretty straightforward and pretty good, and he's yet another legend that's focused around equipment, and some of the green equipment that we already have is pretty nice, so I think this deck has a lot of potential. And oh look, it's another legend that wants to do stuff with equipment. This time we have Jax, Grandmaster at Arms. He is green and orange, and he says you can pay an energy and exhaust him to attach a detached equipment you control to a unit you control, or you can exhaust him to attach an attached equipment you control to a unit you control. So basically, he can equip a guy with an equipment for just 1 energy, no matter what the equip cost of that equipment is, or he can swap an equipment from one guy to another. And yeah, this also seems like a really good effect to have for equipment. You can basically just exhaust him to swap an equipment from one guy to another, so you can do stuff like attach an equipment to a unit you control, swing it into combat, and then slide that equipment to another unit in your base and go and attack the other field, which is pretty neat. You can also just have him swap equipment between guys to trigger effects that activate when those units are targeted, so you can get free activations of effects like that. Yeah, I think this legend is going to be pretty good as well. I think all 4 of these equipment legends are kind of in the same boat. They all seem pretty good and have pretty good effects, and I'm expecting equipment and weapon master stuff to be pretty good, but if all that stuff turns out to not be that good, then of course I think these decks will end up going down in power level. Next up, we've got Fiora, the Grand Duelist. She is orange and yellow, and she says when one of your units becomes mighty, you can exhaust me to channel a rune exhausted. It's basically just the same as Volibear, but I think better, because there's a lot more ways to trigger this effect than Volibear's. With Voli, you just have to play units that are 5 5 might when they come into play. This one, you can do a lot of different things to trigger this. This triggers when units come into play and buff themselves. This triggers when units attack or defend and get buffs from keywords to go up to 5 or more. This triggers when you equip things or play pump spells on things to make things bigger. And there's probably other ways of triggering this as well that I've missed, but those are just the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, getting free runes sounds pretty good to me, but I think this is much easier to trigger, much less restrictive than Volibear's effect is. Plus, I think this is a pretty good color combo for what this deck wants to do. I think this is probably the least promising of the decks in this tier, at least to me. I thought about sticking it in the tier below, but I think this is a good enough effect. We'll have to wait and see though. If our other cards end up being bad, then, well, Ripozo, I guess. Alright, our next tier, we've got some decks that could be good, but could also just fall flat. These are decks that kind of depend more heavily on the cards that are actually in the set and what the format is going to look like, especially in the case with Renata and Ezreal. Their playstyles really heavily depend on them getting some good support. I think especially in the case with Ezreal. Sivir is okay, but I think she's going to need some good synergy with gold tokens to actually do some stuff. It's definitely not a bad effect. I mean, essentially you get a temporary seal every time you recycle a rune. So just at face value, you're only going to have to recycle like half of the runes that you normally would throughout a game, which is not a bad effect by itself, but orange-purple, I don't know. That's a pretty bad color combo right now outside of Misfortune, and she's being hard carried by Dazzling Aurora existing, and I think Misfortune is just a better legend for that deck. So yeah, we'll see. This card could be a lot better than I think it is, but at face value, it's just a bit of a worse version of stuff like Kaisa and Ornn, and this color combo is pretty bad. So I think this deck is going to need a decent amount of either synergy with gold tokens or just ways to proc her effect for free, like stuff that recycles a rune to channeling an exhausted rune, stuff like that. But yeah, I think this deck is going to need some support. Another deck that I would say needs some support is Renata, the Camp Baroness. She's blue and yellow, and she says when you are an ally hold, you may exhaust me to play a gold gear token exhausted, and also while your score is within 3 points of the victory score. So when you're at 5 points in 1v1, your gold, add an additional 1 energy. I think this deck is going to have more potential in 2v2 than it is in 1v1. But yeah, rocking this first effect is not easy. Holding in this current format is quite hard to do unless your name is Master Yi. Maybe Ari as well can hold a bit, but holding in general just isn't amazing right now in the format. There's so much attack power, so many good cards for attacking. Watcher, White Flame, Darius, Dead Bloom. We even have damage spells like Cathian Rain, and unchecked power exists, so if a deck's only good strategy is to just try and sit on battlefields, that doesn't really work. I think this deck is going to need some support to actually be able to defend from attacks and hold fields to proc her first effect. But the second effect is really good. All of your gold adding additional energy is really nice. You just can either get a little bit more on each turn throughout the course of a game, or you're probably going to want to bank all of these for the late game or the end of the game to have a big explosive pop-off turn. Maybe get to 5 and play an early time warp or something. But yeah, if she can't hold and proc her first effect, you basically don't have a legend until you're at 5 points, which sounds like a problem to me. Yeah, I think this deck is going to need a little bit of help. Just having Shen and Smokescreen is not enough to try and hold. Even if those are pretty good cards, it's still not enough, I don't think. If there's a lot of gold generation in this deck to the point where you don't really need to proc her first effect, then it could work out that way as well, but she'll have to have cards like that in the set, and we don't have those cards yet. Next is Ezreal, and he's in a similar situation, but for different reasons. He's a blue-purple legend, and he can exhaust himself as a reaction to draw 1, but you can only use this if you've chosen enemy units and or enemy gear twice this turn with spells or unit abilities specifically. And this sounds really good and has the potential to be really good, but we really just don't have that many cards to synergize with this. We have Stupefy and stuff like Gust, and Singularity is pretty good. It triggers this by itself. Fighter Flight is also nice, but that's about where support for this ends currently. So the potential for this kind of spell slinging removal turbo deck exists, but it's going to need a lot of help to be good. And right now, Control as an archetype, especially honestly, any kind of removal-based, removal turbo control just doesn't really exist in the format right now, at least in a good state. I mean, it does exist. You can play Kaisa or Lux as heavy removal control decks, but they're just not good. So this is kind of in the same boat. We really need more control tools in the game for this to work, or just spell slinging stuff in general, like Stupefy. So yeah, this deck could end up being really good, but it's going to need a lot of cards. We really don't have much support for him right now. Next, I've got Lucian. He's red and orange, and he just says your equipment each give assault. It's a very simple effect. I think it's just kind of as an effect. It's +1 might. It's only when you're attacking, only in combat, and only when you're equipped. So it's a very conditional +1, and it's only a +1. And attacking isn't exactly bad or hard to do in this game. It's quite good and quite strong. So while this guy's champion unit, at least that we've seen, and a signature spell, I think are pretty good, this legend just leaves a lot to be desired for me. So he could be good, but I just think this ability is a little too restrictive and a little lackluster. His signature spell is really good though, so there's that. Last but unfortunately least, we've got Rumble. He's red and blue, and he says your mechs have shield, and mech is specifically a unit type. We have some mechs that are okay. None of them are really that great right now, and yeah, this is just very restrictive on deck building for not much payoff, I think. If you want to use your legend effect, you have to play mechs, and if you want to play units that are better than mechs, you can't use your legend effect. So unless we're going to get a lot of mechs that are really good to the point where we can put enough of them into our deck so that we don't really need like early to mid game generic units, then this could be decent, especially if there's token generation that makes mech tokens. This could be decent because then you're getting a lot of value just from one card. If there's mechs that make a bunch of mech tokens, yeah, this is gonna need a lot of help, I think. And this, just like Lucian, doesn't protect your units from spells. It's just their legend effects are only applicable in combat, and they do have longsword to try and keep their units alive against spells, but they don't have green like Master Yi and Ari do, and that's the best color at dealing with damage spells. Blue does nothing, red has longsword, but that's it. So yeah, I just think this legend is not really going to be worth the payoff unless we get a lot of really good mechs. Alright, well, that's the tier list. I think a lot of these legends have a ton of potential in this upcoming set. I'm super excited to see all the rest of the cards, so let me know which one of these legends that you're excited for. Alright, thanks for watching. Take care.